Hello, I'm Cynde Sadler, and today we're going to teach you how to ferment vegetables. And this is...
Well, I'm not going to teach you anything because I've done enough of that in my, not I would say illustrious, but that's not true. But anyway, I'm just going to make some preparations for marmalade and maybe even get a little bit underway with the marmalade.
Okay.
But that's how the course of the whole program. So how do we start?
Probably with oranges.
True. I'm not sure about these oranges. They are not the freshest, but they're good enough. One of the things that I'm a bit concerned about in general is how modern society is too darn clean. Mm-hmm. So these oranges are, as you maybe can see, not the most pure and beautiful of oranges. These are fairly new and fairly fresh, as you can see, very fresh. Okay, so this probably was bought 3 weeks ago, and I realised that doing our recording here was going to be a bit further down the line, so I let it soak in water.
Okay.
For I can't remember now, maybe overnight. But anyway, so it's relatively soft. Feel my orange.
Yeah, it is.
Not too dry. I
heard putting them with banana peels also sometimes helps. I have never tried
putting them in a bag or something with banana peels. Yeah, something like that. You can use banana peels
like
for all sorts of strange things.
Exactly, it's true.
But basically, my marmalade, the Tony marmalade, is normally 4 oranges, 1 lemon, 1 grapefruit. That's pretty much the balance.
Okay.
But given that we only have 2 oranges, and given that we aren't going to make that much marmalade today anyway,
half a lemon and half a grapefruit.
And half a grapefruit. So I just realised there's something I should probably do before I cut this in half, isn't there?
Remove the sticker for starters.
As you insist. But I think also a little bit of, well, I just said how it's nice to have a few microbes around, but I know some people like to give them a good rinsing. I mean, this is what the wife does sometimes. A little bit of fairy liquid and a little bit of water, and I tend to actually use boiling water. Just pour boiling water over them. I mean, this is just how I do it. This is not a tried and tested through culinary expertise. It's just what seems to be convenient. So
in my opinion, and we're not killing the microbes as much as we're getting rid of the city dirt and people touching them. And
okay. So there are still some microbes. I want a few microbes.
Sure.
Okay, am I going to do the cutting?
Yes.
Okay.
Cut away.
Minding my finger this time.
Oh, that's right.
Boom. Okay, and then we come to the pips. So when...
Keep them or take them away?
Yeah, okay, well, I guess it's probably best to take them out anyway. But some of these have pips and some of them don't. But anyway, interesting to find that there are a couple here. I always take them out and then I think, what am I going to do with them? Because in the good old days, my mum used to put them in a muslin bag. And they used to sit in the side of the pot when the marmalade was boiling away. Okay. And it used to add to the pectin content.
Well, it would, wouldn't it? Yeah.
Would it?
Yes, absolutely.
But, I mean, you sure these have pectin?
Yes, together with arsenic. It's all good.
Okay. I forgot the arsenic. But listen, since you're here, why don't you do something?
Okay. Just looking good isn't enough?
Yeah, that's it. Okay, that'll do.
You think that's good?
That'll do. And I mean, if we're going to play with the seeds or the pips, let's take them out. I mean, I've been doing marmalade for quite a while, but I don't know whether the pips make any difference to the finished product.
There will be pectin, so I guess it doesn't. I sort of like that little piece of folklore.
Yeah, but I didn't bring any muslin with me, and
okay.
Let's see what happens here. So, it doesn't look like there are any seeds here.
Okay. Don't look like any seeds here. Soon to find it.
Sometimes these oranges and grapefruits have seeds and sometimes they don't. I don't follow the issue very carefully.
I think they raise them to have fewer and fewer.
Yeah, but lo and behold, the lemon...
And every once in a while a fruit will turn up with the whole family.
Yeah.
Okay.
So leave that one for the while.
Okay.
Go back to the original one.
This one?
Yeah, that one.
Okay.
We're making marmalade. We can't throw it away.
Okay.
So cut that in half. Yeah, I mean, as close or as accurate as you choose to do. Yeah, put it to the side. Do we have a bowl? No. Excellent. A bowl appears. Miraculous.
And miraculously.
Okay.
Ask and you shall receive, right?
And then halve. No, just don't leave it for the moment.
Okay, I won't touch a thing.
Put it in the bowl with your left hand. Okay, thank you. Nice
Because my right one was already juicy and now I have two juicy ones.
Okay, and then do the same thing with the lemon. Because we are...
Half.
Yeah. In other words, we're going to use the quarter. Okay, and then I guess we're going to have to operate on this too, taking out any unnecessary parts. This one I hope I sterilised at home. Up. I would cut it this way. I don't know why, but I think it kind of grinds
Family
better
tradition.
that way. And then we can eat the other half. Yeah.
Oh yeah, there you go. Ancient family tradition.
Okay, so then now it needs to
Look at
be
this.
juiced or dejuiced, so careful with that. You're going to get sticky fingers again, but do your best. Yeah, like I was saying, that normally I have 4 oranges, 1 grapefruit, and this is a blood grapefruit, and of course that adds a little bit to the colour as well.
It's pretty.
So, as I've learned living in Finland so long, it's not just the way it tastes or the quality of the ingredients, the way it looks is very important. And this marmalade generally looks fairly orange, even though it's got quite a lot of lemon and quite a lot of grapefruit peel in it. But what I wanted to say was I actually don't measure how heavy they are. 4 oranges, 1 grapefruit, 1 lemon. It's about 1 kilo. I have measured them at some stage, but I don't bother every time. And when it comes to the sugar, which we'll do later on, lo and behold, I don't even measure that either. But just leave the measuring out of it for a while. Okay, so now we've got some juice. We're gonna put this in the saucepan in a minute. But now the other operation, the cutting. I just realised sometimes I do cut with a knife to get these kind of strips. But you can also use scissors at this point.
I always cut my pizza with scissors. It's the only way.
Yeah, but knowing what I tend to do when I'm on camera, it's quite likely I'll be adding blood to the mixture, which we don't want this time. Okay, so that's the process.
This is vegetarian marmalade.
But what I then do is I get a fistful of strips and I cut like this. And this is years of experience being distilled down into a simple process. So you do get sticky fingers and a bit mucky, but somehow I find that there's less stress in the wrists or less mess around with the cutting, and you can cut them, quite small pieces.
Really small pieces, like the size of peas, maybe.
Yeah, and I mean,
kernel corn.
This is basically.
Or pips.
I've got the pips stuck.
Yeah, but they're the same size. You're cutting them as small as pips.
Yeah, pretty much. Don't know how much of this we're going to do, but basically this is the process for the whole of the operation. So if I get these finished, then I'll pass it over to you, and I can tell a bit more about the other things. Okay. This is of course going down the line, talking about the process of sweetening it up. It's a long process of cutting. This normally, I guess, lasts about a good hour if I'm making 4 oranges, 1 lemon, 1 grapefruit. It's quite a long process. So, don't rush it. Take a break, have a coffee, have another one. And then, Cynde, if you were making marmalade, which sugar would you use?
Probably that one, because it says Hilo right on it.
Yeah, I mean, this is what you're meant to use, and generally speaking, I've used this. But I discovered that actually, even when I'm making marmalade with this, whatever we call this in English, I don't know, it's some sort of...
I think there's pectin added.
Pectin, yeah. So pectin added sugar. Even when I use that, it doesn't always set. And so last time when I ran out of this, I ended up using regular old granulated sugar. And magic ingredient. Actually, this is not really magic ingredient, but this is what I...
Gelatin.
Yeah, I've tried using this. Now, do you know the difference between these two?
I don't.
Because I have to say, I don't know actually the difference between these, but I know that this one works pretty well.
Does it also contain pectin, whereas this is just gelatin?
Is it just gelatin?
I don't know.
Anyway, it's some sort of thickening.
Just a thought.
Thickening It's not a chemical, is it? It's a thickening additive. So let me recommend using this one.
It's a natural ingredient. It comes in pips and apples and things. Yeah.
Pectin is, yeah, but gelatin is.
Well, it's not vegetarian. It comes from animal hooves, I'm afraid.
Hooves, yeah. Okay, but just in terms of quantities, that's still.
Oopsies.
That's still the first of the lemons. I mean, if I'm making 4 oranges, 1 lemon, 1 grapefruit, I use half of one of these, and then you can be fairly sure it's going to set fairly solidly, or let's say semi-solidly. You don't want to kind of dig the marmalade out with a pneumatic drill. You don't want to pour it out from the jar, but I guess semi-solid is what you're after. And in my experience, it doesn't make a lot of difference what sugar I'm using, especially if I use this.
Right.
So yeah, I wouldn't say every day, but virtually every day I have something with marmalade, maybe toast, maybe sometimes I even have muesli with marmalade, but I don't know, just kind of.
Do you put it on your cheese sandwiches like they do in Sweden?
I can have cheese and marmalade, yeah, sure. Sort of sweet and sour. But I mean, in terms of making marmalade, I make it every once in a while. I'm not a devotee. I sometimes buy marmalade. There's a certain cheap shop in the Helsinki region, I guess it's around Finland too, where you can buy marmalade probably made in Germany or imported from a German importer. They make quite good marmalade, a bit sweet, but
Now, do you have to have special oranges for marmalade?
No, that's what I was just about to say. You read my mind. I was going to say, when I was younger in England, my mum always used to use Seville oranges, and they only appeared in the shops in the early part of the year. Do you know about those?
I do. I've heard of them, and I heard you couldn't make marmalade without Seville.
Yeah, I mean,
oranges,
I don't know when I was young, grapefruits were a rarity. I guess lemons were fairly common, but I don't remember my mum ever using lemons or grapefruits when she made marmalade. It was just marmalade and pips, of course, they were in the mix. And I don't think she ever used any of these additional, whatever they're called, additives.
That's the pips. She didn't need them.
Pips. She used the pips, and she was a lot more careful than me about sort of measuring things. We haven't talked about how much sugar, but that, of course, if the sugar is going to be part of that setting process, getting it solid, semi-solid, then the quantities are important.
So are these pieces?
Yeah, those are good. Those are good.
Good enough for you?
Some bigger, some smaller. I don't worry about that. You know, it's all going to get cooked up. So you know, when you're eating marmalade, you don't normally examine the individual pieces. You don't say, "Oh, you do." Well, that's why you cook them a bit bigger, mate. We cut them a bit bigger, but normally, you know, they just go down. To me. Anyway, these are now ready for soaking. One of the recipes which I came across, it was here in Finland, and it was a recipe for English marmalade. It said that they should be soaked overnight.
Okay.
So if I've got the time, if I've organised, I would actually soak them overnight. Question is, of course, how much water do I put in now? And yes, I think her expression pretty much pinched it for me. I haven't really a clue.
Probably if I had to figure it out myself, I would just put enough to cover it.
And that's what I would say too. I mean, if I'm using...
And if it swells, I might add more later.
Yeah, exactly. So watch it when you're in the process. I would agree with Cynde that I would add enough water to cover the peel there. So it's probably only going to be a couple of decilitres. Is that right?
Yeah, I would say.
Never remember these litre figures. Okay, so we're getting more than halfway through. We've got our peel, mixed peel. We've got some water now to add. As we said, probably enough just to cover. But before we put that in, let's just talk a bit about what you've got on the table here, because basically the ingredients that I've talked about so far are just citrus fruit and sugar and water, of course.
Well, I'm cutting these carrots up for the fermenting, which is going to happen next. But you could put carrots in there, couldn't you? It would give some colour.
Carrots are sweet. Why not? Because it's going to be sitting around overnight. I mean, that's not going to do anything for the carrots, but then it's going to be boiled for a long time.
And they boil up really soft really quickly.
I'm sure there are umpteen recipes that you can do and vary. I've never bothered to add anything. I'm just trying to remember. Sometimes I've added brown sugar instead of white sugar. Makes the colour a little different. Didn't really change the flavour at all. I haven't put any spices in, but why not try that?
Yeah, cloves maybe, something?
Cloves, yeah.
Stick of cinnamon?
Nice thing about making marmalade at home is you can, mess around. You can choose.
The same with fermenting, trust me.
Yeah. Of course, before we add the water to finish this part of the process, we need to get the good bits. My kids used to call this the liha. We call it in English, but the chewy bits. If you have juice, you can filter these out and you get nice pure juice. But
my grandmother actually called it the flesh of.
Flesh.
Yes,
okay.
of the fruit.
So.
And also, I was wondering, do you call this peeling the rind or the peeling? I would have referred to it as rind.
Yeah, okay, I know what you're talking about with rind, but I don't know, rind makes me think of rhinoceroses and, really tough, hard, chewy.
And watermelons have rind.
Yeah, because you don't normally eat watermelon peel, do you?
Well,
because it's rind.
I've made watermelon rind pickles, and they're absolutely delicious, but I forgot the jar with me today.
Okay, now I remember.
Absolutely delicious. Yeah, we ate them last summer.
They look a little bit unusual. I remember being given one and wondering what on earth it was. I think I didn't know.
Sort of like dark green, white, and then pink.
Yeah,
like watermelon.
It was kind of psychedelic, I suppose, which can't be bad. Okay, so all the, what did you call it again? Chewy.
Pulp.
The pulp. And of course the juice, which, interesting how much we got from the...
Well, yeah.
Quite a bit of juice. So, when you're estimating how much water to put in to cover the peel, the rind, include that liquid there, and I'm estimating 2/3 of this will cover it. Let's see.
But a deciliter and a half? Well, that's for ours, just to cover it.
So, yeah, so now we've got a fair bit of liquid and a fair bit of large pieces of peel, but I'll go for that because this is an Anglo-American approach. We have to be tolerant.
That's right.
Don't we? So this is pretty much ready, I would say. I might put a bit more water in, I'm not sure, but the point is that you can see after it's soaked for a while. But no, this is going to sit overnight in theory.
Okay. And then what's going to happen in the morning?
Then in the morning you're going to get your glassware ready. So the next stage when you're thinking about this sitting around and you're getting ready for the next is to find your spare jars. I brought this one down because it's got a nice wide top. That's really why but this is my kind of favourite jar.
They're loose. That's my favourite jar too.
Yeah, because it's got a wide mouth and you can get a good spoonful when you're ready. But the other thing which is quite important is sterilisation. Okay. So what I usually do is boiling water is one way to do it. I mean, I just wash them out if I'm going to save the jars, I usually wash them out with liquid anyway. Yeah. If I'm feeling finicky, I might put some boiling water in while I'm in the process of making the marmalade. But
what about an oven? Can you sterilize them in the oven?
So I've heard about that. Never tried it. Never tried it. And I mean, I don't know how many times I've made marmalade. I mean, occasionally I've got a little bit of mould, but some people will say that mould is good for you. And I mean,
some of it is good and some of it isn't. Blue and white is good. Black, not so much.
Okay, forget the black mould. I think we'll leave that out. But I mean, I often get a bit of mould on the top. I say often.
You can just remove it. It's fine.
Yeah, that's what I do. I take it out and maybe take a bit around it away, but I don't believe that it permeates the whole mixture. So
I don't either.
But that's now, and I suppose you should also sterilise the top as well if you're going to do this thorough sterilisation process. Like I said, I basically wash them out and leave them to dry out and trust that they're clean. The last thing which we haven't talked about yet is how long the cooking process is.
About how long is it? How long is it?
Well, I would really depend on how long it's going to take for me to get myself ready. I mean, they've been sitting overnight. I take them back onto the stove and I boil them up with the water, making sure that they're covered, maybe adding a little more water. No sugar at all to begin. So I boil it and normally boil it for about 15-20 minutes without any sugar, just to make sure that it's then fairly well cooked. I should have checked the recipe book before I came, shouldn't I? Really, just to make sure that there was any minimum time. But that's sort of off the top.
Do you taste it along the way? Do you feel it?
Not at the moment, because this is just softening it up. I mean, okay, I have tasted it, but it's pretty bitter. I mean, it's just peel.
Okay, but I was thinking of the texture.
By and large, the peel is so, what's the word, emaciated. It's by the time you've done the second boiling, because the first boiling is done without sugar, and come to the second boiling, then I add the sugar, and that's the sort of critical time. And I don't know if I said this already, but 4 oranges, 1 lemon, 1 grapefruit I guess I would put in about half a kilo of sugar. Okay. But I don't put in directly half a kilo. I put in probably 300 grams, and I taste it. And really, because we've got the magic, hopefully.
Dust, fairy dust.
Yeah, the fairy dust. So it doesn't really matter from the setting process. If we're using this special sugar, then it is critical how much you have for the setting, how much water, how much fruit. And maybe that's why I've never got it really to set properly with this special setting sugar. Okay,
but that's pectin sugar, and this is gelatin.
Yeah. But when I'm using this, like I said, I add the sugar to taste, and I would say, as a true-born Englishman, I don't want it to be too sweet. I want it to be rather bitter, and as little sugar as possible, basically. And the only time I really blown it is when I put, a bunch of sugar in, and it's too sweet. You can't do anything about it. What I find is that if I use flavouring in the marmalade, I get kind of bored with it. I want the basic marmalade as my sort of basic food. Yeah. So I wouldn't mind trying, a bit of cinnamon maybe, but I don't want to have 4 or 5 pots. Right. That's I suppose the last issue about how much this 4 oranges and blah 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 is going to make. And I didn't bring all the other pots. Normally, I guess I have 2 big pots and probably 2 smaller pots. And that's pretty much how much it makes. I don't know how much that weighs.
Sounds like about 2.5 litres.
Well, if I put a litre of water in there, and I've got more or less a litre, more or less of the rind, I suppose, and then the sugar, so it's around 2 litres, something like that. Okay, have I forgotten anything?
I don't think so. You'll cook it up until it's soft. You'll add the sugar. You'll put it into the jars.
I almost forgot the finished product.
The finished product.
Yeah. So. Over to you.
Do you have a spoon?
Get a spoon. No mould?
Nope. It smells nice too. Do you want to smell it?
So that was the last batch.
Ooh, this is a nice consistency.
It's a bit too solid, to be honest. If I could choose, it could be a little bit less solid than that. But it wobbles a bit, doesn't it?
It doesn't. I like this consistency. It's fine.
Okay, I would have the English version rather than the American version, and I would have it a little bit wobbly. But the taste, of course, is the main thing. But yeah, you shouldn't really. Actually, it does. If you leave it for too long, you get a little bit of liquid on the top. I don't know what the process is called, but somehow it exudes a little bit of liquid. But this is relatively fresh.
Condenses a little bit. Well, it's wet on the top.
It is wet. Yeah. Okay.
It's probably called sweating.
Sweating. Okay, sweaty marmalade. Doesn't sound very appealing to me, but well, what's in a word?
What's in a word, exactly.
Okay, I'm having started it. I trust you will now finish it. All for you.
Thank you. Yum. So now we're going to talk a little bit about fermenting vegetables. So some of the things are a little bit different from the marmalade. For example, we don't need to sterilize anything. Just clean is fine. We don't have to do anything with it. You should preferably have organic carrots though, because they do put different things on vegetables to keep them fresh looking. So it's a good idea to just buy them. So if there's some spots and stuff on them, you can cut them off. I've just sort of removed them a little bit like this.
But you wash them as well?
I give them a scrub because the bacteria is still here, but I just removed the spots that are less beautiful. Then I take my jar and figure out how big do I want them. They need to be about this long, otherwise they're going to be too tall. So that's what I've done. I've cut up a few of them to get ready. So basically just cut them in evenly sized pieces. They don't have to be big or small, but if they're big, they take longer. If they're smaller, they're shorter. So I'm always in a hurry, so I make them nice and small. These are great for dipping into dips or whatever when they're done. So what do I need? I need some salt. And
what exactly are you doing with this fermenting? I mean, I think about fermenting as making beer Or I mean, it's not
Wine.
you're not making any drink, are you?
No. Wine, beer is all fermented.
Yeah.
So is vinegar. If you leave wine long enough, it'll become vinegar.
Yeah.
So it's the same process. It's really the same process. I'm causing the good bacteria, which is everywhere. So if I just wave it around, I've got Finnbrit bacteria on it. And I don't want the nasty ones that rot things. I want to get rid of them. So I'll take some salt and about 2 teaspoons.
Heaped teaspoons.
Oh, just about.
Not too heaped.
Trying to get into about 2 cups or 1 cup of water. Well, you can put it into 2 cups and dump it in later. Inside this jar, you can put anything you want with your carrots. You can put cloves, pieces of ginger, dill, black pepper, mustard seeds, fennel seeds, garlic, anything you can think of.
Olive oil?
Olive oil? I don't think so.
No? Oh, you say anything.
Vegetables, I was thinking. Vegetables
Okay.
and plant things. Other than that, I haven't put anything else. But
We have some very special olive oil here too, that's why I was wondering about it. Finnbrit olive oil. Well
so that's
matured.
basically all you have to do. That's as sterile as it needs to be. A jar which is clean, rinsed well in nice warm water, and then you just start putting them in, the pieces. Maybe you could get me a glass of water there.
A glass of water.
Yeah, because
A whole glass.
enough to fill here. This is already looking pretty good. I could fill it up with a lot more. It gets it nice and tight. And in the bottom of my bag that I had to wash out, I had a bay leaf. It's good to put a bay leaf in. It keeps them crunchy. And if you don't have any bay leaves, you can put an oak leaf. And I thought that was so fun that last year I went out and picked a lot of fresh oak leaves in the spring. They were nice small, and I dried them because they looked really pretty on the edge. You can see on the edge.
Here?
This is a bay leaf, but because summer's gone and I don't have any left. But here what I've done is I've got a really hot chili pepper. And the chili pepper that I bought was about this long, so I cut it into halves, fours, and let it dry out. So one sliver is plenty.
So that was quite strong pepper.
It's quite strong, but it gives it a little bit of a bite.
Yep.
And so, and peppercorns and all the good things that I don't have here handy on the table. And just pour it up, and the water should cover everything. If there's something sticking out, it might mold, and you don't want the mold if you can avoid it. And so you have to keep everything submerged. And one of the ways of keeping everything submerged, put a little bit more in there. Thanks. Good. Is I use a piece of, you can buy from Amazon for about 16 euros, really fancy little glass weights, or you can use a piece of cabbage and a rock. Or in this case, I took the cover of a water bottle, and it just keeps it pressed down.
Aha, another cover.
Yes.
So you want to borrow
They
it?
were easier to, because at home I use rocks, and I wrap them in little silicone covers, which I have, so the rock won't touch the glass, because I'm so afraid it might crack the glass. But when I was carrying them here, this is how I did it, because when I put it like this, the cover will push that down to keep the surface of the water. That's probably the most important thing at this stage. So there you are. We're really done here. So at this point is where you can put in the things that you choose, pieces of garlic, pieces of onion,
So
slices.
you leave them on the top? You don't...
I would stick them down on the sides so they're pretty. And here I've got, I put some leeks in here as well, just to look pretty, and some pieces of fresh dill. And that's about it.
So do you have the pizza with you?
Pizza?
Pizza? Are we going to eat it with pizza?
Next week. But would you like to try some?
Yeah.
So here's a week-old piece of cabbage. Cabbage is really good for fermenting. It helps everything get along quickly. So if you have strange things that you haven't tried before, a piece of cabbage will get it going quicker than most things. So there you go. This is only about 3 days old. And then you leave it as long as you like. Taste it and see what you like. Is it crunchy?
The
Is it
first
tasty?
one I've ever experienced. Fermented
Really?
cabbage. Yeah.
Okay.
It's got garlic in it as well.
Yep, piece of garlic. So this will get, each day you leave it out in room temperature. The warmer the room, the longer it'll go. Oh, I forgot to mention that after a couple of, maybe even a few hours, but the next day at least, you'll see little bubbles coming up, just like with sima, which you had talked about earlier. Here's a piece of ginger in there as well. The bubbles will start coming up. And sometimes I'll take and I'll just give it a poke to let those bubbles rise up because it's fermenting. So it's getting, just give it a little poke every once in a while.
This tastes still quite crunchy. It's not soggy at all. It tastes a little bit like pickled.
Yes, that's where we're going with this.
And it's much less pungent than the Brussels sprout, which you gave me, which was really strong. I don't know, was it older, do you think, or is it just...
The Brussels sprouts might have been a couple of weeks old, and also they are cabbage. So they ferment quicker and easier than the carrots are a little bit different.
So how long would you keep these for? Preferably?
Oh, you keep them as long until they taste just right to you. Then you cover them nicely and put them in the refrigerator, and they'll stop fermenting a little bit, slow it down.
But I mean, how long can you keep them for?
A year. My watermelon rinds that I was going to bring, they're from last summer.
Okay.
And they were great, but I couldn't. I forgot to bring them.
And they're good for you?
They're very good for you. These are very good for your gut intestinal.
Acid, they contain some sort of acid, don't they?
I don't know about the acid, but they're good for your intestines, and stomach digestion and everything, and your gut flora, as it's referred to sometimes, or bio, whatever. So they're very good. Every day you should eat a little bit of fermented something.
Okay.
Any questions?
Could you put lemon peel in it?
Why not? Definitely give it a try.
We've got half a lemon here which we didn't use, and I was just
put a little slice in it, and we'll check it next week. Making your own sauerkraut is so crazy easy that you don't have to really know much of anything. You can take a jar. Now I don't have an empty one here, but you put the jar in. Do we have an empty jar? Oh, that bucket. Take that red bucket there. Pickle bucket.
Okay.
Oh, and there was my rock. So here's my rock as a weight, but because I'm worried about...
That's a pebble, not a rock. It's a rock for you.
It's a pebble.
It's a pebble. It's a big pebble.
It's a big pebble. I think it's a marble.
It's beautiful.
It is, yeah. And I usually put silicone around it because I don't want it touching the glass. I'm afraid it might crack it. So that will hold it down just nicely. And there it's done. And I don't tighten it up. I'm going to just leave it loose so that the air bubbles will get out.
We didn't talk about tightening up the marmalade jars, or we didn't even talk about, distributing in the jars, because that's also an issue in a way, not to put very hot marmalade in a very cold jar. You could crack the jar, but it's never happened to me.
But something to be aware of.
Yeah. When you're decanting hot marmalade.
Get in there. So, if I were going to make sauerkraut, basically I would just slice it up super thin. Is this thin enough for you?
Yeah. I suppose so. Yeah. Good.
And with sauerkraut, now I take a jar, just this bucket is good. Oh, and here's my piece of garlic and my bay leaf that could have gone in here. So all of them could have gone in here. And I put the cabbage into my container. And every inch or so, I take a little tiny sprinkling.
You do it in layers.
Just a teeny tiny sprinkling between every inch or so, just a teeny tiny bit, not much. And then I can take some kind of a press and press it down. Just press it down, and keep building up and building up. And as I build up, and keep pressing and pressing, an inch, another inch, a sprinkle, another inch, a sprinkle, press and press and press. And by the time it's full, it will have already broken down the cabbage so much that there's already its own liquid. So you don't need to add water or anything.
Not at all?
Not at all. Oh. At this point, you can also put it in between layers if you'd like. Beans, fresh peas, pieces of carrot, things that are...
Olive oil?
Olive oil. No.
Okay.
But that's it. I haven't tried it, so maybe you could try it. But by the time you get up here, then you've got your little rock. Another thing which I did was go to the recycling center.
Yeah.
And because, like I said, I looked on Amazon, for 16 euros you got a fermentation weight. But at the recycling center, you get these little candle holders out of solid glass, and they cost 50 cents.
Oh, yeah.
And they're great. So you just put them on top, or if you've got a big bucket like I usually make, I put a plate with a rock wrapped in cloth so it doesn't break the plate. And that's that. And then you can put fennel seeds or cumin or whatever you like to put in there for flavoring. And about a week later, it's all bubbling. Yes, this is sauerkraut.
This is fermented cabbage, isn't it?
Yes,
So it's been on the
sauerkraut.
top, but
It's been on the top.
yeah. Okay, so it should be delicious.
Yes, should be.
I was just
It's
saying-
quite fresh yet, though. And when you're doing your sauerkraut, it should also take, it's about a week. But when it starts to really foam and bubble, sometimes on any of these things, you'll get some mold at the top. Sometimes people freak out. Don't freak out. You can take a bottle brusher and you just skim the top and pull that scum right off. It's fine. Some fermenters also mix it right in. To me, that sounds gross, so I just skim it off. And like with the marmalade, you can, with a clean finger, you can just wipe around if some shows up. After a few days, it'll stop showing up. But in the beginning, it does turn up. And I've even seen people remove a whole layer of blue fuzzy. It's fine. You just remove it, get it all away. But if it's black,
Yeah.
don't eat it. Throw it out. Something's gone wrong. Blue and white are fine. Ask the cheese people, they know. So,
Okay, you've not tried lemon in the fermenting,
No.
but it presumably would be
I
possible.
think we're going to
put a
try it
little
right
bit-
now.
Yeah.
Oops, I wanted to make it pretty.
Something else you might use as well, but
Olive oil?
no, not this time.
I think I'll avoid the raisins for one reason. They're very sweet,
Yep.
and I don't want it to go too fast. The sugar will cause it to turn to alcohol really quickly, and that's not really the goal here.
Okay.
Look how pretty that looks with a little
Yeah, nice.
lemon on the side.
So we've got to come back in a few days' time to taste this.
Well, you can take that home with you.
But
as
this
you-
is when this is the new one here.
That's
isn't
the
it?
new one, yeah. That's the one I was intending to put the lemon in.
Okay.
There's
So
a pip in there. Now it's going to be jelly.
it's a seed
Oh,
changed into a pip.
yeah. Now it's starting to run over. Another thing is when you put it to the side, it's a good idea to have a dish under, because in the first few days of processing, it does tend to run over. It can bubble over and get your table wet.
Yeah.
But that also does pass. And here are some sprouts. These I did a couple of months ago.
Bean sprouts. Okay, I was
Yes.
thinking Brussels sprouts.
No.
'Cause I-
These are mung bean sprouts, or black bean sprouts, I forget. But I put a lot of mustard in here. These are quite strong straight up. Any kind of sprout will work. Peas, I've sprouted peas, or garbanzo beans, chickpeas. Any kind of bean if you get a nice sprout. And they're great on salads, in sandwiches, and things like this. So try them and tell me
There
what.
we go.
I think these have garlic and mustard mostly.
This is more bitter
Is it?
compared to the.
Well, the carrots are very sweet, that's true. And so is cabbage,
Well, I
actually.
think for a lot of people, this initial taste is a bit bizarre. I mean, the first taste of anything new is going to be a bit,
Sure,
well,
sure.
bit of a shock maybe. Not as strong as the Brussels sprouts, but
Yeah, they were funny. We called them frog balls.
yeah, I can believe it. No, these are nice. And you'd have them on sandwiches again.
I put them in salads all the time. Yeah,
Yeah.
and I sprinkle them on
yeah,
sandwiches.
a little bit of pep. In the
Yeah, just a
salad.
little bit of pep. Eating them straight out of the jar with a spoon is strong. That's true. That's what I need to go.
Speaking about pep, I have one more thing. If we've finished, otherwise,
Yes. Yeah.
Because well, we talked about adding flavours to marmalade as well as to your fermented products. Given that it's Easter time, and this is a very traditional Finnish Easter product,
Yes.
you know about it.
Yum.
I can't remember how it happened, but I'd been eating Manmi and cream and sugar for many years, and suddenly, somehow, somebody suggested another malted product. This one here. As you can see, no name, but everyone knows what it is. Nice malted product. And you're going to have a taste of this?
Didn't it also start as a fermentation?
No, you just add it and you eat it. Nothing.
No, but this started with fermentation.
Yeah, they would have done some while ago. I mean, normally I don't eat it straight out of the packet, but this is what you're going to do, I hope.
I've never tried that combination, no.
Of course, this may be edited out by the censor. So, in the name of experimentation.
Thank goodness I don't have a car.
Yep, go on. It's very little bit of whiskey.
Actually, quite nice. Yes. Yeah, it's quite nice.
It's kind of sweet and sour. I think we should offer it to our cameraman too.
We should do, yeah.
Maybe give him a clean spoon.
That's a good idea.
Yeah, just to finish off about the cooking of the marmalade, a little bit more about it. We've let this stand for how long? Half an hour? And actually the peel has absorbed a lot of the water. So that's part of the process of letting the peel, which maybe is a bit dry, soaking up the liquid, soaking up the water in this case. This will be sitting overnight, but then the second boiling with the sugar. So we talked about how much sugar, a few 100 grams. Normally you're boiling it for about, again, 20 minutes, something like that. And I suppose the critical thing is when you add your gelatine or whatever we call this magic ingredients, just be careful that you mix it in sort of carefully so it doesn't turn into a big lump.
Yeah.
Normally mix it with cold water, add a little bit of the juice to heat it up slightly, and then so it's a sort of warm mixture. As I said, half a packet of gelatin for whatever this is, half a packet of the ingredient for that 4 oranges process. Carefully that you add it in so it boils probably just for a few minutes at the end. The boiling process, you have the sugar in it, and that's boiling for, I guess, 20 minutes to half an hour. I'm not sure that it really matters how long, because it's already been cooking. You've boiled it without the sugar for half an hour, boiling it with the sugar for, let's say, 20 minutes approximately. Add this pretty much at the end of it, and make sure there's enough liquid before you put that in. So as I said, I'm going to add more liquid to this before I boil it. Okay. Of course, the sugar creates some liquid, so that will add to the liquid content. But the critical thing about putting it into your jars, empty jars of course, is just be careful that the jar isn't cold and your marmalade is very hot. So when you're decanting it, normally I use a soup ladle, something like that, and just put a bit in the bottom of the jar just to sort of heat up the jar, and 3 or 4 jars, and then
scoop it in.
And I always leave the top off when it's hot. You just let it sit for however long it takes to cool down. It's properly cold. It could be an hour or a couple of hours, between 1 and 2 hours. So before you put the top on, and I don't bother with anything on top of it to seal it. Just let it cool down, and then it's ready when it's cold.
And how long will that last?
And you mean how long will it preserve or survive? I haven't kept them very long. I mean, I don't know if you kept it for a year, maybe something strange would start to happen. But I mean, I eat it usually within, I suppose, 3 or 4 months, maybe even less than that.
Okay. So that seals it.
Okay. The mixture. Well. So
we finished our fermenting and marmalade. And this is for you to take home.
Oh, okay. Thank you very much. And this is well fermented.
It's well fermented and well spiced.
Well spiced, great. This is well seasoned. It's been sitting on the shelf for a few weeks, and
Okay, thank you.
Hope you eat it before it gets too.
And this one, if you want it more sour, you can leave it a few more days out but don't have it tight. Just have it loose. You can keep it for a couple more days and taste it each day.
Okay.
When it's done, put it in the refrigerator and it'll stop.
But going home, it's going to be solid.
Yes. Yeah. So thank you for listening, and goodbye.
Bon appetit.
Bon appetit.